Joe, Ohio State versus Illinois. Ohio State coming off a dominating win versus Minnesota. Illini, after the Indiana loss, kind of bouncing back a little bit here, getting their legs up under them. When you preview this game, how do you see it playing out?
On FanDuel, 16.5-point favorites are Ohio State. Take Ohio State to cover. Blake, this Illinois defense, I get it. Banged up. Xavier Scott has been out of the lineup. They've got embarrassed, and a lot of their stats are impacted by what happened against Indiana, where they were down a lot of bodies. This is where they stand statistically on defense. 108th in adjusted EPA per play, 94th in EPA per dropback, 98th in EPA per rush. They're so far at the bottom. They're giving up so many big plays. Their offensive line is struggling. They're giving up a lot of pressure to Luke Altmeyer. They're going up against the best, most athletic defense in the country. Blake, I don't think that this is going to be a very fun game for the Illini. And as much as they deserve credit for the bounce back that they had against USC and the improvements that they've shown, this is not the game where they come out and shock everyone. Blake, they have allowed at least 100 yards on the ground in each of their last 4 games. 312 to Indiana, 126 to USC, 151 to Purdue. And the one thing that we've talked about that needs to get going a little bit more, that has a capability to explode for Ohio State, is their run game. This is going to be the game where they really start to take over. We're going to see a big game from James Peoples, and I want to see more Bo Jackson touches, man. I want to see that kid get the rock more, and I thought that we're starting to really see over the past couple of games what he can be as the team's lead back. But the way that this team dominated Minnesota after just a hair of a slow first quarter, which is hilarious to say when they put up as many points as they did, they can sleepwalk through a quarter and then dog your ass. That is how good this Ohio State team is. Illinois is not equipped to keep up with the Buckeyes. They're just not.
Not only can they stop the run, I mean, look, they're 93rd in the country in total defense is Illinois. A lot of that coming because of the Indiana game, but it's not like that USC didn't throw for almost 400 on your ass. Man, they can't run the ball. This is the inverse of what I think a Bret Bielema team is supposed to be. Really, I do. Joe, they're 99th in the country in rushing. They're going against one of the best run defenses in the country. Third down on defense is Ohio State. Their secondary is 4th. And I look at this and say, I don't know if Illinois has a shot unless Ohio State beats themselves. Like, Ohio State's going to have to do a lot to help Illinois out to stay in this one. There's going to have to be a lot of things, because I don't know if I do see a weakness for them defensively. But I don't think that's going to be coming off of running the football. I kind of feel like that they're going to have to put it on Luke Altmeyer's hands against a damn good secondary that it's a bad matchup for them. Because, well, it's a bad matchup when you go up against anybody, really. Joe, their secondary is 111th in the country, going against Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith. I know Ohio State fans won't agree with this. Let's just call it what it is. Last week was the Carnell Tate coming out party because he went stupid. I'm sorry. I just got to call it like I see it. This one's not good for Illinois at all. I really all day today tried to figure out a way, hey, how can we see this one going down and this one being close? The only way that I could see it, Ohio State's going to have stupid penalties. They got to turn the ball over. They've got to be lackadaisical. They got to do so many things. They pretty much have to beat themselves. I don't trust a team that can't run the football, and I don't trust a team that gives up more yards than almost anybody in the country, almost the last team in the Big Ten, and allowing this many yards through the air. Luke Altmeier's going to have to put this team on his back and make some exceptional throws. If he does that, maybe, but I don't know if there's a weakness that I've seen this Ohio State team have instead of, can they run the football more effectively, would be my question.
Well, and this is what's been troubling for Illinois to this point, is that they have not played to the identity that we anticipated, which is playing really physical, solid defense.
They can't.
I think that a lot of it does have to do with how quickly they got banged up. And I still am a big Gabe Yakas fan and James Thompson Jr. fan. Luke Altmeyer, as you talked about there, has really been the way that they have had to generate a lot of their offensive production over the past couple of weeks. They can't really truly get the ground game going, and it's all been Hank Beatty and Altmeyer. And Altmeyer's been playing great. Like, credit to Luke Altmeyer. He's been playing his ass off. He's been thrown for over 300 yards in a lot of these games. He is willing them to these victories, which is something that I don't think many people necessarily anticipate. I think a lot of people just thought the Bret Bielema team was going to run the rock, and Altmeyer was going to be a game manager, and they were going to try and gut out defensive victories. But that hasn't been able to come to fruition, and Altmeyer has done the opposite. He has outperformed all expectations for what he could be as a passer. To talk very specifically about Ohio State, Blake, man, this team is just getting better every single week.
Yep.
And I think that the driving force for it is that Julian Sayin is looking increasingly more confident. It kind of reminds me, and I said this in the beginning of the year before the Texas game, and my Texas prediction was wrong, but I think that the growth for Sayin has been correct. That it's very similar to CJ Stroud, where you just started to see that first year of him as a starter where he started to get better and better, and he was just such a tremendous game manager, decision maker. His accuracy was great. He hasn't really taken a ton of chances. He's not one of these guys that's going to like really go for the deep shot, and they're really not throwing a ton past the sticks for these really aggressive types of big plays because they don't really need to. But I'm starting to see more in that, and I wonder if stepping into this setting that we don't get more from Julian Sayin, where he does try to air out this Illinois defense a little bit more.
Boy, but he's found a connection with Carnell Tate.
Yeah, dude.
I mean, last week I was like, bro. And here's what the scary thing always coming into the season for Ohio State was. And we talked about them when we did our deep dives. We did 2 deep dives this offseason on Ohio State. I mean, they're the reigning, defending national champion. All right, sounds good. So we talked about them twice. And both times you and I walked away with, all right, everybody in the country understands what Jeremiah Smith is. Okay. But the emergence of Carnell Tate is what's going to lead this team so much more with a young quarterback. Joe, I really saw in Minnesota game last week that I thought the training wheels were a little off. I mean, some of the checks that he's doing at the line of scrimmage, some of the things that he's doing, he's going out. I think it was the third quarter, maybe end of the second quarter, early third quarter. Joe, they're in the shotgun, and they're in 11 personnel, which is one back, one tight end. They bring it in. He goes under center and runs the football, and I know that it had to be him because the clock was under 15 seconds. And I'm like, wait a minute. To me, that seems like that this man saw a favorable run call or run play, and he got it to Bo Jackson, and off to the races we go. I agree with you. He's gaining confidence. And listen, you can have that high level of confidence when your defense is destroying everybody because you don't have to worry about making mistakes, which is now leading him to actually make right mistakes because he's being aggressive, and he's making the throws that he needs to make. The one thing I would say about Ohio State, you got to find a way to run the football a little bit better because when you start facing better competition, I think we all know this. They're going to just try to take away everything that you're doing in the passing game. And it's not that it's easy to do that. And maybe teams won't be able to do that. But, Joe, they're 57th in the country in rushing. And I know that you talked about Bo Jackson getting some more carries, and I agree with you there. I think they need to be a little bit more consistent and kind of stay with it a little bit more. I know they have, but they got to be a little bit more consistent. I will say this. I'm about to get yelled at. I need to see a little bit more from that interior of that offensive line. I do think some of the struggles of not being able to run the football, like in the beginning of Minnesota, like a couple of weeks ago, when you're looking up and you're like, hey, man, I mean, it's the midway through the third quarter and we got 45 rushing yards. Like, what's going on here? I just asked the question, Joe, simply, can you be a little bit more consistent there to help them out even more? Would be my only knock. If there is a knock on this team, which, look, we've praised them on every single level, need to run the football a little bit better too.
Yeah, and I think that there's been a gradual improvement. I think that the big reason for the gradual improvement is that they decided that they wanted to turn to Bo Jackson and start getting him more touches. And I thought that CJ Donaldson, when he came in as a transfer, I didn't think that he was a guy who was a premier lead back. He's a big dude. He's not very fast. He's perfect for what he can be, which is a goal line player because he's so gigantic to power through and barrel through a couple people. If you need a 2-yard touchdown, a 1 yard, whatever it is, you're a couple yards away. Even as a lead blocker, he's that big. Having the explosiveness of Jackson and also the talent of Peoples, both of those guys getting more touches is where this team starts to hit their stride with running the football. I do agree with that. And I think that there's at least been promising looks at what their run game is starting to become as they're realizing what their personnel is. When you've got you got a young guy like Bo Jackson, you're not going to give that guy a bunch of carries right off the bat. You're just not going to give a freshman carries that quickly. So to gradually work him in and increase that volume wouldn't shock me if by the end of the year he's not getting closer to 20 touches per game. The one big thing though, Blake, we're going to see this Ohio State defensive line go off on this struggling Illinois group. I think that Caden Curry and Caden McDonald are going to have themselves another insane game. I think that we're going to see another Arvell Reese, Sonny Styles game where they're just making huge plays all over the field. This is not a matchup that is going to bode well for this struggling Illinois offensive line. They're going to be in a blender. This is going to be one of those games where I know Patricia likes to be aggressive and send pressure and be confusing. They could probably get home rushing 4. That's how good this unit is going up against this Illinois offensive line.
Joe, they're really bad.
Yeah.
They're really bad. It is insane. I mean,
they're 124th in havoc rate allowed. So that doesn't register sacks, but that just shows how many mistakes that they're currently making.
Yeah, they're just making a lot of mistakes. And to be real with you, I mean, look at all the plays Altmeyer had to make against USC. I mean, it's not as if USC wasn't getting there. They just couldn't get to him. Look, man, what did you say the spread was on FanDuel again?
16.5. I'm taking that.
Yeah, I think I'm taking it too. That's a lot of points, but I really don't care. I just don't know where there's an area. Again, I'll just say this as we end this. If Illinois shocks the world and beats Ohio State, Ohio State's just going to have to wee down their leg. I don't know of an area that you can attack. Now, maybe Illinois finds a way and finds a chink in that armor. Who knows? But I really think that this one's going to get ugly, and it's going to get ugly pretty quick. And look, I've said this a couple times, but just to end it out, it's crazy what happened after the Michigan game, and people wanted Ryan Day fired. Now look at him. I mean, the monkey is off of their back, and I got to be real with you. They're playing like it.
Yeah, they're playing freely.
Remember that 500-pound gorilla everybody tried to wrestle during the offseason? That's what I felt like was on Ryan Day's back. Well, now it's not there anymore.
It was 100 people wrestling one gorilla.
Well, all Ohio State needs right now is Ryan Day and maybe a Jeremiah Smith, and it's over.
You should have said that during the summer.
I mean, well, I didn't know they were going to come back out here and look like this. I mean, people would have thought Ryan Day would have lost to Texas.
Honestly.
Just saying. I mean, they've hit a stride, man. They look confident. Yeah. And confidence breeds success. You walk around different, you talk different, you act different. And really, Joe, of all these teams, here's the crazy thing and why it needs to be a plus for Ohio State. Look at all these teams that got the preseason hype coming into the season. Texas, Penn State, Clemson. What do all of those have in common? Not that versus Ohio State. They read their own press clippings. When I look at Ohio State play, I feel like that they still feel like that there's a chip on their shoulder. As crazy as that sounds, you won a national title, bud. You can't tell me that Jeremiah Smith doesn't look like he doesn't play with a chip on his shoulder. You caught the game-winning pass to win a national title. Anyway, maybe I'm crazy.
All right. No, you're not.